Hello everyone, welcome back. At this point our project is complete in terms of functionality. So I can go ahead and create a new card, $20, coconuts, and food. And a new transaction gets created in my budget spreadsheet. So the only thing missing here is authorization. All of our functions, transaction, set sheet, and set token, they all lack authorization. So anyone can call these functions by making the right types of HTTP post requests and set our spreadsheet ID or modify our authorization token or so on. So in order to prevent that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new document in my Cloud Firestore. So currently we have two documents. Let me create a new document and call this auth. And let's create a user name and password. I like bananas. So for now there's only one user, and that's me, but this can be easily extensible. So we can for example create a new collection called users, create a document for each user, and inside these users we can set the username and password. But to keep things simple, I'm going to stick to one user. So now that we have a username and a password in our Cloud Firestore, in these functions, setSheet and setToken, before updating the Firestore, we can first check the request headers and compare the username and password with those in our Firestore. Of course, in order to authorize, we have to change our post creation script, this one, so that we can add an authorization header inside our HTTP post request. So firstly, we have to add another import here from requests auth import HTTP basic auth, and let's define our username and password. And the only thing we have to do now is add another argument. Auth is equal to HTTP basic auth user name password. As simple as that. And now we can go ahead and modify our functions to read the request header. So the procedure is the same for both functions, and because of that I'm not going to do it twice. Instead I'm going to create a new function. I'm going to call it authorize user, and it's going to take in a request, response, and a callback. And before building this function, let me show you how we're going to use it. So let me cut that, and instead I'm going to call this function, and I'm going to pass request, response, and as the callback I'm going to pass in an anonymous function. I'm going to call this thing. Let me quickly do the same here. And the idea here is this callback is never going to get called unless we can successfully authorize the user. By the way, let me tell you how we're going to access this authorization header. So actually this is two strings, the username and a semicolon and a password. So in our case it's Utku, I like bananas, and here there's some other stuff. I don't remember it. We'll see it in a second anyway. The only thing to remember is that this is going to be encoded by the base 64 encoding. So as a first step we have to decode the authorization header, and we're going to do it like this. So let me create a new variable, creds is equal to, I'm going to create a new buffer, and inside it I'm going to get request headers authorization and decode it using base 64 and to string. For now, let's just print this just to see that we haven't made any mistakes so far. Let me serve my functions. And open up a new terminal and use our new PostScript local set sheet, and let me copy this URL. So we should have seen a regular string. Let me check real quick. Alright, we're calling this to string incorrectly. We have to call this way. Let's try again. Oh, alright, I got it. So we have to split this first, because only the username and password is encoded, but we're trying to decode the whole thing. And let's get the second part of this. Now we can see our username and password. Let's break this into two parts as well. Call split again with semicolon separator. And now we can go ahead and retrieve our auth document from the database. Doc config auth get, and then snapshot. We're going to return true only if the username and password are both equal to the values on here. Snapshot data username is equal to creds 0. This is the first part, the username, and snapshot data password is equal to creds 1. And we need another then block. So authorized, that's what this will return. And if not authorized, then we're gonna print a console warning and also return authorization error response. And if it's actually successful, we have to call our callback. And finally, add a catch block. And again, return a response. Alright, if I didn't make any mistakes, this should work fine. So just to be sure, I'm gonna delete this spreadsheet document and try to set it again. And I'm gonna first test the failure. So let's add 1 here and run our script. Alright, here we see the wrong password and it rejected it. Now let me fix that and try again. Alright, now it accepted it because the spreadsheet ID is set now. As you can see here, it's here again. So this is it for today. We only have one thing to do, and that's to authorize this function as well. So since this is triggered by the Trello webhook, we cannot check simply the username and password. Instead, we're going to check the request header in a different way, and that's the topic of the next video. And actually, that's going to be the last video. So see you again in the last video. Take care.